Hello everybody and welcome to the EMCC Global Providers Summit. I'm delighted to be co-hosting with some of my fantastic colleagues from Grant Thornton. And our dialogue session today will be on transforming business with coaching and the impact of coaching on organisational culture and building human capacity at Grant Thornton. So my name's Lucy Dakin and I'm the EMCC representative for the summit in the APAC region, and I'm the head of coaching for Grant Thornton International, and specifically our quality assured EMCC quality assured global award-winning exceptional coach program, which you'll be thrilled to know that all of the senior leaders that we have co-hosting today have been through this program and are accredited coaches with our internal executive education program. So you might be curious, those of you that don't know about who Grant Thornton is. So we're one of the top accountancy firms in the world with a network of independent accounting and consulting member firms which provide assurance, tax and advisory services. And the member firms cut across the globe. So we're in over 140 countries and employ over 56,000 people. So we have a really strong partnership with EMCC and our Quality Award for our Practitioner Coach Development Programme, which aims to develop partners and senior directors. That's the level that we're working through at the moment, and we work with that globally. So this gives us something different in the market for our accountants that have their technical expertise partnered with an accredited professional coaching certification. So we're thrilled to be able to offer that to our people within Grant Thornton and share with you a little bit of our story and our journey and how it's impacting our culture, the way that we do business and our leadership within the firm. So the Global Award-winning Exceptional Coach Programme is a year-long practitioner programme. And it's really formed a catalyst of how we've grown a coaching culture specifically over the pandemic period. So we took the program 100% online. So we've been able to accelerate our coaching culture and developing professional coaches within our firm over the last 3 years specifically. And it's really provided some opportunities for us to grow in different areas. For example, international business opportunities with the cohorts that people are on with our regional cohorts, and having connection and being able to have a safe space to be able to talk out what's going on for you and getting that support from peers. So they're just a couple of the side benefits that we've experienced from the program alongside having those coaching skills developed. So for our session today, we thought it would be useful to showcase our global capability as a firm and specifically in this coaching space. So in a moment, I'll introduce you to our panel of senior partners and directors that we have around the network, mostly in this Pacific Rim region for this time zone. So we appreciate that many of you will be watching this recording and be curious about what we're doing in this part of the world as you listen in maybe later on in your evening or tomorrow. So we'll share from the perspective from one of our senior leaders, and then we'll go into a breakout room with some questions for you there as well. So I'd like to introduce our panel for you today. So co-hosting with me today, we have Ian Pascoe, who is the CEO and leader of the Grant Thornton Thailand member firm. Hello, Ian, and welcome to the session.
Morning, Lucy. Good morning, everybody.
And we have Rima Tabak, who's the managing partner of our San Francisco office from Grant Thornton, USA. Good evening to you, Rima. Thank you for joining. And then we have Fatima Hunaid, who's a partner in the Indian firm. Hi, Fatima. Very good morning to you. It's very early for you dialing in. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Lucy. Good morning, everyone.
And we also have Wendy Wright, who's a Senior Director and sponsor of the Exceptional Coach Program for Grant Thornton US. Good evening to you, Wendy, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that's a bit of a tour of who you'll be hearing from today. We're, of course, excited to share what we're some of our story. And again, for those that are listening to this recording, what does this mean for your organisation or for your practice as a coach or mentor? So let's get into this, shall we? Let's start this dialogue conversation, and then we'd love to connect with you all and hear what you've got to say as well. So if I could ask Ian to start off with our conversation today. Having spent a lot of time developing Grant Thornton firms in Singapore, Vietnam and Thailand, Ian, what do you see as the biggest challenges to the way that we do business with the development of coaching?
It's an interesting question, Lucy. I guess coaching has taken us all out of, traditional comfort zone. Working in this region, obviously, it's a very hierarchical culture, and you've got, and the education process is generally people to listen rather than ask questions, and so it's taking people out of that zone and actually getting them used to saying it's okay to ask questions. And I guess one of the things I noticed very early on in my coaching journey was, as a senior person in an organisation, asking questions of more junior people, and getting them to feel comfortable that there wasn't a right answer. It was really quite. I think some of them almost found it quite affronting. The boss is saying, what can I help you with? Well, I'm not here to. You're not here to help me. You're here to ask me to do things. And so I think that was a big paradigm shift, to get a feeling that we were generally interested in them rather than just work, and then get them into the right frame to be able to ask questions themselves. And so again, that it was, if you then transfer that for people into a client journey, going out and becoming, rather than being, and particularly as a male, where we are Mr. Fix-It, right? We should have solutions rather than just providing solutions. It's actually asking questions, and it's amazing when you are looking at developing a business and trying to attract clients and get clients to feel comfortable, is actually asking them questions rather than just going in there and telling them things. So that's been a major shift we've done in developing the business across here, and it has been a challenge to actually get people to say, it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to question. That's been interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess going even further that's sort of from a client perspective, but developing our people. And I think that's led to a much greater, ability to attract and retain people. If you are seen as, from a coaching culture, genuinely caring about, their well-being. But it's also taking our leadership people away from what they originally thought of was coaching, was actually telling people what to do. And there was a big sort of mix-up between what coaching and coaching, mentoring, and appraisals. So many, just your normal, typical performance appraisals. You had so many people in early days when you were saying coaching, they would feel that the coachee was coming in and saying, this is my file review. When I first started talking to them, well, I'm doing this assignment and I think I did well. I don't care about that. So that's been a very big change, and I think it's been really effective. And we are seeing, just in general, demeanour around the office, the way people feel much more free to interact with the more senior people in the firm. I used to joke that with my each graduate cohort that came in, when I speak to you, you don't have to look at your shoes, right? You just sort of, so many junior people say good morning, they go, and now to get them feeling much more open that we can have a two-way dialogue. So as we've developed that coaching through the organisation, we've seen a lot better interaction across the levels, which is interesting. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to just open up this a little bit more so that we've all experienced the Great Resignation. And Ian, you were talking there about how coaching's helping your member firm and maybe across South East Asia as well with retaining people. What are some of the specific shifts that you've seen in that space?
The Great Resignation has been for all of us, and I think not just in Thornton, but for just about every employer. It's been a very, very challenging time. It is still challenging, but we have seen some great results, and a lot of it is changing our leadership style and the coaching. I know some of the ones from my firm that you've brought through, Lucy. Some of the very sort of domineering people who do as I say, not as I do, and my way or the highway sort of attitude of some very senior people, and they've changed significantly. And so some of those people, and they know who I'm talking about, used to have huge turnover because they were very, very domineering, and that's obviously just if you're going to be domineering, I'm out of here. It's totally changed the way that they are working with their people, and particularly in one case we've seen sort of someone go from massive turnover to virtually none in the last 12 months, which in this period has been really, really exciting.
That's fantastic to hear. And just one final question before we take some time to go into breakouts and connect with everybody that's here today. I wonder if you could share a success story of how coaching has enhanced a client relationship, whether that's in Thailand or maybe internationally with working in the region.
Absolutely, and it's actually very live, and it's going on in the meeting room right next to me at the moment. We have I mentioned earlier, it's training our people, because of the coaching, they are much, much better at asking questions, right? And to actually draw out what problem. And if you can get clients talking, the more they talk, the more they like you. Even you can actually build a fantastic relationship with a client by letting them talk. And that's been a major shift. And so right now we've got one of a brand new clients, a very large company in Thailand, who now has loved talking to two of the people that have been on through the coaching program with you, Lucy, who have become really good at asking questions. And as a result, that client has brought in 20 of their senior executives today to sit in and basically go through a 3-day strategic session, which is very good for the firm. In fact, the fee's very good. But they are, and hearing the chatter coming out of that room from these 20 executives, just because they've got the total change in how they're asking questions. And it started with one of my partners questioning the CEO who for a couple of hours, who thought, this is fantastic. I want to bring my whole executive team in and do this. And so we've now got 5 of my people, 25 of the clients' people, and the dialogue and the brainstorming and how they are going to build their business going forward has been fantastic. So I would attribute that directly from that coaching journey, because the ability to ask questions, the ability to draw out what is actually the major problem within a client, what is keeping them awake at night, and because they've been able to bring question, rather than what we traditionally do as, I guess, professional advisors, we fix it, we go in there and say, this is your problem, this is how you should fix it, and that's what it is, rather than actually what is really your problem, what is it really as a business is your aspirations.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to what was shared earlier around having the accountancy or the business consulting expertise, but then going in with that partnered with coaching skills is just unlocking a lot of potential. So thank you so much for sharing a live client experience that's happening next door with the room here. So thanks, Ian. So we wanted to just give snippets of insights from our senior leaders. For those of you that just joined a little later, we've got senior leaders that are dialing in from Grant Thornton US, Grant Thornton Thailand, and from our Indian firm as well, just to give you a flavour of how coaching is really starting to transform our coaching culture within the firm, but also how is this impacting business and the client work that we do, so that in the new normal that we're all operating in, that we can offer something that's maybe that bit more different and potentially more human. So we're going to give you some time in smaller breakouts to connect. Of course, these sessions are all about dialogue. So we have a few questions to pose to you. So what do you see culturally with coaching and mentoring in your country? And then if there's time in your organization, or if you've got your own coaching or mentoring company, how does your coaching enhance the culture? So they're the couple of questions to spark these dialogue sessions in the smaller groups. So hi everyone, welcome back to the main room. I'm sure you had an interesting dialogue in your room as we did in ours. We're not going to share back in the main room because we want to just have this opportunity to share with you as much as we can from our global reach with coaching, and then for you to unpack that in the main rooms, in the breakout room. So I wonder if, Rima, we could now hear a little bit from your side of things, being the office managing partner in San Francisco in the Bay Area. You're working a lot with tech companies. You've worked in China for many years as well, and often doing work in this part of the world with the tech reach that you've got. And I know that you've got a particular interest in working with women in leadership and in that coaching space. So I thought it'd be interesting for us to hear some of your thoughts in that space. So what benefits do you find coaching women in leadership, and how does this impact your Grant Thornton US commitment to diversity, equity and inclusion?
Thank you for that question, Lucy. I am very passionate about this, and I guess maybe just for everybody's benefit, just wanted to quickly share the business case for why it's so important to coach women and develop women and retain women. So important for our businesses. I think maybe it was about 15 years ago or so when a lot of consulting, public accounting, and investment banking firms started looking at kind of the graduates, the percentage of graduates, women versus men, from top universities with business degrees, and then looking at the percentage of women leaders versus men in businesses, in different businesses, at public accounting or consulting firms or banks or any really businesses. And they saw a huge discrepancy, right? They saw that 50% of graduates, whether it's business school or undergrad business majors or finance or accounting majors, were women. So it was 50-50. So the associates, people starting careers in business were 50-50 between men and women. But then when they looked at either partnership level or a senior leadership level, whether it's CEO or CFO, that it was a very, very, very small percentage that was women, right? So it was kind of a given that if you want your business to grow, right, if you want your top performers, 50% of your top performers not to leave, then you got to do something about retaining women and coaching women. And of course, there's also the whole business case about having diverse leadership, because when you have a diverse leadership team, then you're usually more effective and and so forth. So that's probably when Grant Thornton, about 15 years ago, when Grant Thornton, among as well as a lot of other firms, decided that there needs to be an intentional initiative about this, and we started a more intentional coaching program for women specifically. I was a senior manager at that time, and I was lucky. I got paired up with a office managing partner who was a woman, which was extremely rare at that time. I mean, it's kind of rare now too, but it was really, really rare at that time. And so I really benefited from having a coach who was a successful woman, not only because I saw somebody in front of me that I could become a role model, but somebody who I could talk to and I really, learn from. And that's what I do now a lot. I focus a lot on coaching women, whether it's formal or it's just informal. And I'm very excited to see our numbers grow in terms of the percentage of women in leadership. We still have ways to go at GT, but we are at least halfway there from a US standpoint. And in the Bay Area, I'm actually very excited to say that we're at 56% women partners. So I'm very proud of that, very excited about that.
So really fascinating to hear how things have shifted over the years. What did you notice in China when we know that you've spent some time over there? Anything that you'd like to share from that perspective?
Yeah, so and this is actually similar in US or China. The biggest challenge when mentoring women is opportunity. And I remember talking to Chinese girls about this while I was working in Shanghai. So many of them just didn't see people who look like them in leadership positions. So they often took themselves out of the running for those positions, even though they potentially could have been the strongest or most qualified candidates. So they just didn't give themselves a choice. They just, way before they could have that choice, they took themselves out. So it is vital that women keep themselves in the running. And I think as leaders, it's really crucial that we help women realize their goals and ambitions, that we help them create a path toward the future that they want. Yeah.
And that accessibility is so important. And that's one of the things that we've found with taking the Exceptional Coach program online, is that now we're able to offer this program in very different parts of the world that maybe we wouldn't have the access to the program previously, to fly a bunch of people to a set location somewhere in a region that now many people can access it. So it's really great to hear that perspective, Rima. I was going to ask just one more question, if it's okay. How does the use of coaching with tech clients support the relationship?
Yeah, it's interesting because the Bay Area is very different than what Ian was talking about in terms of what he's seeing in Asia or Thailand. There is no hierarchy anymore. Hierarchy is gone, right? It's a grid. The way I think of it is a grid, and you have your leader kind of in the middle of that grid. And all these people are just around the leader, and the leader is just empowering the people around him or her, as making them voice their ideas, ask questions, do things all together, right? And so this kind of coaching culture is extremely important. And we talked about the Great Resignation. This is very true in the San Francisco and Silicon Valley. There's a huge war for talent, right? There's only so many talented people, educated people that all these tech companies want to retain. And so they absolutely have to have a coaching culture to be able to retain these people. It's just imperative for their businesses to be successful. And the coaching is obviously very different. The way I explained, it's not where you have to provide solutions to somebody. It's not where they have to listen to what you tell them. It's very different, right? You have to be able to listen to them. You have to be able to understand that they think that they're there to solve things themselves, right? To provide ideas to solve things. And so I have to be cognizant, and we have to be cognizant of this when we're providing services to our clients. I have to coach my teams in this manner too, because that's how we work together at providing client service. Like I was just in the room just yesterday. I was in a room together with a client trying to get through some technical issues, and it was all levels. The CFO was there together with the senior accountant, with the controller, with the staff accountant. They were all going through the issues, and so it was the same thing on our side too. I was there as the partner who will ultimately sign off on the audit, but then my staff and my senior associates were there with me, going through all the technical issues together as one team, because that's just the style of working now here. It's just how it is. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective from the region you're in as well. I love that grid way of working. So we're going to now break up into smaller groups again, and we've got a couple of questions to help stimulate that conversation. So questions here that may be useful for you to start having a dialogue, or just to build on anything that Rim has just shared in the room with us. How do you utilize coaching in your organization or organizations you work with? And what organizations see the power of coaching in your country or region? We'd be really fascinated to hear that. So we'll split now. Dilla, if we could do 8 minutes in the breakout, that would be super, and we'll see you back in 8 minutes. This is great to hear the different thoughts and feelings and perspectives in the room. So we have our next co-host to hear from, and I'm delighted that we've got Fatima, who is based in Bangalore in India. And it's interesting, Ranjit, you were just talking about companies that are really excelling in coaching in India are the ones that are investing in culture. So Fatima, what a lovely segue into our conversation here. So just curious to know, how is coaching central to driving culture and creating future leaders in the Indian firm?
Absolutely, Lucy. I could almost hear Ranjit's words ringing in my mind as as a segue to this question. So, coaching really is synonymous with empowering people for our India firm. And with that, I'll step back and give a little bit of a context on our journey in India and how we've grown. So our firm in India is more than 85 years. And over the last couple of 2 decades, we've been experiencing very strong, consistent, and steep growth. And just to give you a sense, just in the last 10 years, we would have grown from 500 people to 8,000 people now. And, something which has really been central to how our firm works traditionally, and even now I can say for sure, is how we deliver our people experience. And one thing was very clear in our minds of our CEO and all of our leaders is that we wanted to preserve this focus on delivering people experience in the midst of growing large, the small firm experience, the family-like environment. So back in 2018, what we did is, look, hey, we know that our culture is good. Let's get a sense of where really we are and what we need to do in order to preserve our culture, right? So we brought in a culture shaping firm called Sendeleni. We did our corporate profile. And what we got to know is it just reconfirmed what we knew already, that our culture is good. And then and there, we committed to moving to greatness, from good to great. And one of the inputs we got from the corporate profile is that if we want to get there, we really need to focus on coaching and feedback, right? So we started our culture shaping process where it was led from the top. Most of our managers and above have gone through the culture shaping process. And the idea is to bring in the whole firm within that process. But as we were going through that, Lucy, GTIL and yourself came up with this fantastic program where we give a structured process of how people can go about coaching, not in the general understanding of the term coaching, but equip and empower people with the right tools, even if the concepts were known, like listening, asking questions. But the program and then the certification, the way it helps is that we now know what is the right way to work if we have to really develop people using the coaching format and structure, right? So we started that in 2021 last year, and out of more than 350 top leaders, a very large number of them have already started the process, and coaching is truly and well underway. So I think coaching is a central pillar of us wanting to uphold our values and culture as we go through our growth trajectory in the future and achieve our ambition, which is to be of the most valued firm in India, right? I think again, talking a little bit more practical about what coaching means and how it's really shaping how people work with each other and with clients, is that it helps drive accountability. When we are engaging in in coaching conversations or with clients, it helps drive accountability because no one is giving out easy answers. It's for people to stand up, take accountability, and deep dive, find solutions, and own and have a growth mindset. Because Lucy, just tying back into what we want to really achieve, deliver the people experience, empower them, help them grow, and in the process, help the firm become the most valued firm. That's how I would like to kind of describe where we are at and how coaching in culture and value is very central to how we really want to work.
Yeah, and it's huge investment from the Indian firm in coaching and in the culture work that you've done, and absolutely you can see how things are starting to transform for your firm. So that's exciting, and for your clients as well. That benefit of the client connection there. I know that people are going to love hearing from all of our leaders that are on the call today when they get a chance to hear this recording. And what a treat that we're all here in this space today to hear it live. One more.
Lucy, sorry, before we proceed, I wanted to also highlight how we are doing this, just to give people an idea about, practically how we're infusing coaching into the structure of our firm as well. So we've started with our senior leaders going through the ECP and the coaching program, but at the same time, we've also started manager as a coach program, where our mid-tier, the managers and senior managers go through the program. And as they progress within the firm, they go through the formal ECP coach accreditation as well. So we're looking at a holistic development of people as coaches, to Cassie's point that, we're not looking at just a practical knowledge, but also formal hand-holding by the firm through formal programs, Lucy, led by GTIL, so that we have a holistic and a long-term commitment to delivering coaching and empowering our people.
Thank you, Fatima. I'm sure that's very useful for people to hear the practicalities and the strategic way that you're looking at developing your people. I'm just conscious of the time, so I'd like to move us into a breakout now. And if we break out, Zilla, for another 8 minutes now, with a focus on anything that Fatima has shared there that sparked some interest for you, and some of the questions for maybe you to bring out in that 8 minutes of discussion as well. So what are you noticing about the differences and similarities of coaching in different cultures? What are your thoughts on working with clients, either internal or external, using this coaching way or a question-led approach. So we'll see you back in 8 minutes. Welcome back to the main room. So again, interesting conversation. And Susan, you're a whiz on the keyboard with your reflections and comments in the chat. So we're now going to shift the conversation and love to bring in Wendy and her thoughts on coaching in leadership development and organisational change. They're doing some fantastic work in the US firm around this space. So Wendy, just curious to know, how do you bring coaching into your development strategy in the Grant Thornton US firm?
Yes, thank you. I've gotten even more intrigued about this as we've gone through our breakout sessions. I have all these examples that I want to give as I talk about this, but we have really begun to weave, and I'm not going to say we've fixed everything or addressed every area of coaching need, but we've really begun to weave this through really the entirety of our development strategy. So thinking about everything from as we coach for performance and invest in people, experiences, formal learning, we start as a professional services firm. For context, we hire thousands of new joiners every year from campus to begin their career with us, with the intention that they move upwards in our organization and we invest in them. So we actually begin the conversation about coaching very early. Now, our new joiners straight off of our university campuses aren't necessarily coaching people from the onset. However, we want to institute a culture in which that becomes comfortable for them. So we begin that capability building around being curious, asking questions, inquiring about and seeking out coaching, seeking out feedback, how to receive it well. So we start to kind of build a foundation of those behaviors around giving feedback, receiving feedback and coaching, how to kind of lean into that, so that then in a couple of years, when they begin to supervise others, we can build on that with, I'll call it introductory coaching, which I would say, to be honest, in the beginning is sort of clarifying them the difference between real-time feedback, how that differs from coaching, how that differs from mentoring, what a sponsor is. So we begin to kind of build the capability early career of sort of the early things you might give feedback on and then begin to coach on. And then as they move up into next milestone promotion points, we just continue to build and build. And we use a variety of ways we do that. Some of it is self-study. Things like digital badges. We found that that's really compelling to people, is to have a series of courses within learning paths that essentially add up to a proficiency in an area. So in our early constructs around coaching, we start with things like self-studies and badges, move into role plays, virtual live sessions around that. When we get into mid-career, we start to get into more what I think probably we all would consider sort of focused, intentional coaching, if you will. We have in the US moved into this internal executive coaching program that, Lucy, you've talked about, this exceptional coaching program, where we've taken our most effective people leaders, if you will, and taken them through an actual accreditation with EMCC. So, and it's so fascinating as they go through that and they realize what they've been calling coaching is not what we would call coaching. And it opens up a whole new realm of coaching for them. And so we've gotten really intentional around that. I'll call it internal executive coaching, and that we align coachees to them that are at the senior manager level that we consider to be high potential, so that those individuals also feel invested in, hey, we're giving you an internal executive coach. Pick your topic. Where do you want to grow in? And that's been a great way not only to build the capability of our strongest people leaders, so they lean into that internal executive coaching, but also kind of double down on the investment that we're giving to those people that are in our succession pipeline, moving up to our new partners and principals. And then we also use, I'd say, more traditional external executive coaches for our leaders who are on succession plans, where we want to strengthen an area or help them close a gap or give them some refined focus in a specific area to help them on their readiness plans as it relates to succession. A couple of new things that we've tried the last couple of years that have been just kind of dabbling in this space, where we've seen individuals at the same job level with a common need or focus area. An example would be executive presence. So last year we had about 12 to 15 individuals who were around the senior manager level that all were identified as, hey, they need an executive coach externally, one-on-one. And as we looked at the theme, we're like, gosh, it's all around executive presence. And so we crafted a program where we brought in an external executive coach who took them through a really effective program where they got to use each other as peer coaches and to try out in a safe place the way that they did elevator pitches and the way that they communicated their executive presence. And then they get one-on-one coaching with this external coach as well. So we've been dabbling in some group coaching as well related to coaching. So and really just, Lucy, a wide variety of ways we've got that woven into what we're doing around development.
That's excellent, Wendy. And I know that people watching the recording as well as in the room will really get a lot of value from what you've shared, specifically around that strategy and how you're weaving coaching throughout all the levels in your organisation. One final question, and then maybe we just stay in this main room rather than going to a new breakout. So what opportunities do you see? Let's go to another question for you. What benefits are you noticing with the changing how your leaders lead?
Yeah, that's a great one. I would say there's probably a couple, and they're not like quick hits. I would say we're definitely evolving on some of these fronts. One is a journey that we set out on actually a couple of years ago. And at the time, we were really focused on it around our performance management approach. And that was enabling continuous conversations. We wanted to get away from the surprise year-end conversation around how you did this whole last year. And so we started to do some things on our performance management front. And what we realized was it didn't matter the technology or the tools or the forms that we rolled out. If our leaders and our coaches weren't equipped to have the conversation about transparent feedback, we were never going to get to where we wanted to get from our performance management approach. So that's been one of the benefits that we've started to see, is those conversations are happening a lot more real time from feedback, but also in terms of like real coaching. There's more like they're threading together the feedback instances to become coaching. We've also kind of flipped the script on, instead of traditional goal setting, we flipped it to be, what's your personal development plan for the year? Lucy, where do you want to go this next year? Well, I want to get promoted, or I want to move to a new industry, or I want to, build a network with a client or get on this type of client. So then the coaching becomes around where somebody wants to grow versus what we're trying to fix. And so we've started to see some nice progress around the frequency of coaching conversations and sort of the elevation of those conversations. The other thing that I would say that we have started to make some progress on in pockets, I think we're going to need to roll at scale a little bit more through our internal executive coaching, but thinking of coaching less as problem solving for someone. I think that's how our leaders have traditionally defined coaching, at least in the US, is, oh, you came to me, let me fix your problem. I've been around, I've traveled this road. Let me tell you what I did that worked. Go forth and try that. So shifting that to be more about listening and learning from the person and asking the questions to cue them up to solve their own problems. So where we've taken people through that sort of internal executive coaching program, they're now able to do that and just seeing such powerful results. We actually have people clamoring to get into this program, as I think like people are like, how do I get in? I'm hearing that it's really like changing the way that coaching is being done. So that's going to take more time at scale. But it is nice to see sort of that moving the needle from a problem solver to sort of an enablement of problem solving within the individual as well. So starting to see some good progress on that front.
I love that. And also that focus on growth, what do you want to achieve over this next year, and really focusing on the strength base as well.
Yeah. So
I know that's going to add value to this dialogue session. So rather than going into smaller breakouts again, I wonder if we could open up a conversation here in this main room. So anything that you've heard from Wendy that you've got a interest in, or a viewpoint, And we also have some questions for you that might help target the conversation. So what trends are you noticing with coaching and leadership development? And what shifts do you see in the growth of coaching in your organization or the people that you work with? So any of those things that you want to speak about, let's keep this in the main room now as we work towards the end of our dialogue session.
Okay, maybe I can kick off by asking a question. I'm fully aware that there's a lot of promotion around strength-based coaching, appreciative inquiry, solution focus. Right? So my question is, how attractive are these programs, to, let's say, you all as a leader in human resource and human capital development? What do you see, as the attractiveness of things like this, which are supposedly so-called emerging new stuff, right? Strengths movement, the Marcus Buckingham stuff, the David Cooper stuff, appreciative inquiry, things like that.
I could respond to that, Simon, especially on the appreciative side. One of our very important culture tenets is appreciative feedback, and the role appreciation plays in, just having people, focus on assume positive intent and just be at their best. So we encourage appreciative feedback widely. And, there's research which says that we only share appreciative feedback once for every 6 to 7 times we may think about it. So the power of appreciation is huge in really strengthening what's great. And once you notice that you appreciate it then and there real time, it has a lot of value in it. So not just as part of coaching, we encourage real-time appreciative feedback firm-wide as one of our very important culture tenets to drive what's great. So all of this is integrated and to how we would like to work and how we work.
And Simon, I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking, but I will say one of the things that we have really focused on is seeking out coaching experts in specifically defined areas. So as we look at individuals who have either requested coaching or others have requested that they have an investment of an executive coach, there tend to be categories. Like this is an individual that needs strengthening and strategic thinking or executive presence or whatever it might be. And so that's something that we've been spending a lot of time on within my team, is seeking out experts in those different spaces, so that as we go and kind of do a pairing that feels comfortable, we've got coaches who've had a lot of success in distinct and specific areas, in addition to like what you're talking about, the approaches, to kind of match what we lean to as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
We've got Ranjit with a hand up, and we've got Gwen with a question that I think was first off the mark. So we'll go to Gwen's question, which is to Wendy and Fatima. What is your organizational strategy on implementing technology in coaching, robots and AI, or IE?
Wendy can surely take that with the kind of thinking you've had and the success you've had with starting early. So I think we're some way off from there.
Yeah, I think we're actually getting close. We're joking about it in the last breakout of like turning it all into text bots, coaching chat bots. But I actually do think there's some integration in, and there are tools and technologies out there that support this from a technology perspective. So we've been considering trying out some of this with some of our senior manager academies in relation to very specific areas, almost like a combination of a spaced repetition. Hey, here's a learning construct that we've been teaching and focusing on. And then how do we use spaced repetition, meaning following up with you in 3 days, 7 days, 12 days to bring that topic back to life for you and provide some sort of in the moment coaching and response to that. So we've been doing that, but more, I wouldn't say using technology yet, but we've been starting to look at external providers who do serve in this space to sort of queue that up and to help us reinforce some of our strategic learning topics as part of integrated programs that we already have for our leaders. There's definitely technology out there that supports on this, but I can't speak to any specifically that we've had success with.
That's great to know, Wendy.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the tech space as well, as many as you are. Where is this all heading? Ranjit, you had your hand up. Please go ahead, and then we'll go to Cassie.
Yeah, thanks, Lucy. And this was a question for Wendy, and just curious, since it seems it's a very mature market that you're operating in, and a coaching culture seems to be quite embedded. Just curious on equally actually learning from what are been some of the challenges that you've experienced as you've gone on this journey of embedding more of a coaching culture within the organization.
Yeah.
Actually, challenges are great learning. So just curious, what have been some of your challenges in that journey? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll tell you one that just came up in the last couple of weeks that was really interesting to me. It's when we were pairing up. So we have individuals who are part of this internal executive coach certification program. And so to pair them with coachees, we took high-performing senior managers, new partners, and we positioned it as, hey, this is an amazing opportunity for you. We want to invest in you and your growth. We're pairing you with like these incredible leaders. Like some of them were ex-CEOs, like recently retired CEOs and top-line leaders. And what was really fascinating, despite all the wording that we used, those individuals that were selected as coachees, so many of them were like, what's wrong? Who said I needed a coach? What needs fixing? And it really like 3 or 4 of us got together on my team, and we were like, oh my gosh, like they've taken this the wrong way. Like our intent was they're going to be so excited. We're investing in them. And instead they got really worried. Who said I have a problem that needs fixing? Who nominated me for this? Not in a positive way. So it really made us realize we've got a lot of work to do in terms of how coaching is perceived, and that historically, perhaps we've been using coaching at the executive level when we have a problem child that we need to go quietly fix by giving an external coach to, that maybe has been a little bit more visible than we realized when we were doing that. So that's a really important one we're still working on, is how do we, I think it'll take over time as we have successful iterations of like, that was an amazing experience being paired with that coach. And it really was for my investment in my development. So that's one I think it's going to take a little bit to lean into, and it'll just have to kind of prove itself out that we're using coaching as an investment versus a fix-it tool. So that's been one. I would say the second one that I think is going to take years is we have so many managers at a sort of a new manager. If you think about our model, we hire straight off of campus. In 2 years, they're supervising others. In 3 more years, they are career coaches to others, and they're pretty junior still. So really just developing that professional presence around guiding people who are at more junior levels than them. So they still struggle with difficult conversations. And so they perceive coaching as a difficult conversation. So sort of flipping that, that's going to take us a while. It's why we started doing the first piece that I talked about when they come in the door, how to receive, how to ask for feedback. This is a culture in which it's a safe place to do that, so that as they grow up, they start to have that mindset of like, oh, this is a good thing. I want to receive it. And now they're going to be glad to receive it. And I'm more comfortable giving it then. So we definitely have a ways to go on that kind of mid-manager front as well.
Thank you, Wendy. Really appreciate the authenticity. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
There's some great further comments in the chat that it's just popped through from Rimmer and Simon. And Cassie, let's hear, we'll just hear one more question from you as we start to close out our session today.
Thank you, Lucy. I asked a similar question yesterday in this New Zealand Air Force context. I want to ask also for corporates like Wendy's, and how does this start? How to make a corporate or company to start to this coaching, accept this coaching like program, and then embed this coaching culture. How to get the management commit to this program to start with.
Perhaps, Lucy, I mean, being the CEO in my organisation, it does need to come from the top, Casey, I think. I've been through a number of courses, so I obviously totally believe in it and saw the huge advantage in it. But where I had some challenges was the next level down. So some of my other senior partners, and particularly in the context of perhaps the culture here, was getting them to come out of what they traditionally thought of as being sort of, call it mentoring, but really being very much directive leadership, and getting them to come out of that. And so the way we did that was actually put them on some coaching courses. And I think one of them, particularly one of perhaps my most directive leaders, I put on the course with Lucy, and we've seen a massive change in her. And I guess that by other leaders seeing how she's changed, that's led to a change in the culture across the whole organisation. So I think it really needs to be, we talk about tone from the top in so many instances, but I think when it's come from here. The other thing is, some of my early coachees were some of my junior people. And so, and that was not without its challenges. So taking a relatively junior staff, and some of the things that Wendy was talking about before, when I first started coaching them, why does the senior boss want to be talking to me? What have I done wrong? Or perhaps he wants to know more about the work I'm doing. And so it took a real change to get that the mindset to know I'm genuinely interested in your career and what you're doing, and that then led to sort of, I guess, going out through the organisation that, hey, it's not part of performance appraisals, it's not part of discipline or giving direction. It's really about that whole culture shift. So it was a journey, and I'll be perfectly honest, it's still going. It's not. We've not arrived at our destination yet.
Thank you very much.
Great questions, and love the way the chat's been utilised as well in this session. We're drawing towards the end of our dialogue session, hearing from Grant Thornton and how coaching is enabling us in a different way within the organisation, with our clients and the business that we do. I'm very grateful for you all being here, and especially dialing in from the different parts of Asia Pac and also beyond. So thank you so much for being here. And I know that people will take the time to listen to this recording when it's a reasonable hour for them as they join into the summit as well. So just before we close out today's session, I promised the team that I would ask for a reflection from the Grant Thornton team that have been on the call today. So just given all of that you've heard, you're connecting with each other, but also this wider audience that we've got the opportunity to dialogue with, what's one insight that you've found from this session today? And we've got around 3 minutes for this, so whoever wants to share or pop something in the chat. So for our Grant Thornton co-hosts, any insights that you've found over this course of nearly 90 minutes together with the audience?
Lucy, I would say for me, just listening to my peers as well as the conversation, the breakouts, coaching is just such a connector. I hear it across connections up and down job levels. I've heard it in conversations about increasing connections with clients. And I hear it connecting cultures as well as firms work across and with other countries as well. There's a lot of commonalities. There's a few distinctions around, sort of cultural elements that are unique, but I feel like there are more commonalities around the investment and the need of coaching as a connector.
Thank you, Wendy. And we've got time for one more reflection from the Grant Thornton team, or something in the chat if you prefer.
Lucy, I could share. This session has been really, really eye-opening in the sense that there's so much commitment towards coaching in the Grant Thornton member firms, and the fact that, like Wendy mentioned, there are a lot of commonalities as well. But I think starting early, preparing coaches to receive coaching, while we focus a lot on coach providers, is something which really stands out. And also encouraging women to stay in the running, as Rima mentioned, and not fall off the grid is some of the important takeaways for me.
So I was wearing two hats today as the representative of EMCC Global for the APAC region, but also being part of the Grant Thornton team here for this dialogue session. So with my hat of EMCC Global on, I'd just like to say thank you for the great insights and wonderful discussion that we've had. And again, we know that this will connect with the wider community as this recording goes out. But on behalf of EMCC Global, thank the Grant Thornton team for your contributions to coaching and the future of coaching with the work that we do around the network.